Welcome, everybody. We are back today.
Greetings, Karen. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Absolute pleasure as always. You're one of my oldest friends, aren't you?
Yeah, and it's been really nice to interact with you over the years and see how, wow, things have changed so rapidly in the world, especially in the past few months, especially. But friendships are nice to have and to encourage one another. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks for
we've been
that.
quite good friends. We talk quite a lot privately anyway, don't we? But yeah, we were
Yes.
kind of talking before we came on because I said, "What are we going to talk about?" And you said AI, da da da. So let's get on with it. What would you want to say?
Well, there's artificial intelligence is so sophisticated and clever that it's mind-blowing to look at. There's so much information about artificial intelligence
Yeah, I
and
just said to you,
how
they only need one photograph now. One photograph, they can get you dancing, moving. Oh, it's just terrible, isn't it? That you just need one photograph, and that's
well,
not
yeah, it's
technology they had today. They, whatever we have today with our smartphones and the internet, they've had stuff like this for years. And I just wonder
yeah.
what
So
Tartaria was because they probably had it for many years. Because
well,
there was a video
yeah,
that came out that we had mobile phones in 1949. And stuff like that, and you're like, what? How can we? Yeah, I think that's what the
I
wars
would
were
like to
about.
see that.
The wars were
Yeah, I
about
would like.
destroying all this.
Yeah, I didn't see the video about the mobile phones in the 40s, but if you can forward that to me, I would appreciate it. And is it
Yeah,
a
sure. And
YouTube
also, do you know
video
something
then?
else they said we had? Because this is how they like to change history. They said that a double-decker train was running into Euston, which is one of the big stations in London. You've got Victoria, Paddington, Euston, so forth. But it was running from the late 40s to 1971. Not one person who lives in London knows anything about it. So they're prepared to manipulate our history and pretend these things are there when they're not.
Wow, that is so interesting. Yeah, that's been, I would say, probably one of the biggest mind-blowing situations is finding out that a lot of what we're told is our history is not actually true.
Yeah.
And so in the in the effort to find the truth about a situation, there's a dynamic that we can apply with critical thinking. If there are contradictory perspectives, they can't both be true or correct. However,
Means we can't trust anything we're watching. I mean, thank goodness we know that we're real people, but you
right,
can't trust anything you're watching.
right. So with the law of non-contradiction, if those contradictory perspectives are present, they can't both be right. They could, in fact, both be wrong. There could be another option. And that's where artificial intelligence is playing a different game than we are. It's a much longer game, and it is, in fact, so powerful that it's way more powerful in the capacity to remember, retrieve, and to deceive. That's the
The way I
that's
see it, right, is that, I put I'll send you the other video I did about the AI if you like, because, they put this video out with Boris when he won the election and he stood outside 10 Downing Street. And, I know we do different things, Rob, but you're not me, I'm not you. You go out with your P900, you've taken many videos of the sun and the moon and stuff like that. The sun more than anything, that's your favourite thing. And
hmm
obviously changed a little bit now because you're talking about other stuff. But I just saw this Boris, and then it's like there's two cars can draw up outside 10 Downing Street, and you've got a
hmm
photographer. You can see the photographer, and the photographer is like a great big giant compared to little tiny Boris on the road. Right? He's little. He's even
yeah,
smaller than
yeah,
the people that are standing further away. And you think, well, what are they trying to tell us? Do they think we're stupid? So people
yeah.
aren't
As Bor
watching this and they're not realizing it. You need the footage and you need to slow things down. And once you start doing that, you realize that the reality you live in is not what you think it is.
yeah, and so is it true? whatever
It's
it
not
is
true.
that
And do you know
we're
what it made
wanting
me
to know.
realise? It made me realise that these videos are filmed months in advance. So even all those stupid press conferences they did those months ago. And that's why they don't have any feelings in anything, because they did it. How can they have feelings in something that hasn't even happened yet? But I think it's all done with computers. You know, they're just making these videos for us.
Now, so when we're looking at the different situation in the world today as far as the pandemic or the design collapse of the world economy, the distribution network of our consumables, food and supplies, it's pretty devastating. And the response for what they created, what they have done is created a situation where millions of people will very likely
Yeah, because the one
die
thing they've not
from.
really been talking about is how this is going to affect our economies, because now thousands of people haven't got jobs, including me. You know, they're not
Oh, we're
talking
talking.
about those things. They've just been
Yeah,
going on about those goddamn masks.
yeah. So it's millions of people that are wondering what to do, and then the millions of people that are going to starve to death because of
Well, I'm not even sure if that.
the
I'm
collapse.
wondering what happened was, you know, like we've got the NASA money, and even NASA closed down for a bit in this stupid pandemic. But if you imagine, they've already got the systems running how they want it to, and then they take that money and, you know, they've got all that money. It was $57 million a day or whatever it was. And
Yeah, something
yeah,
like
so
that.
imagine you can run the economy. So I think what it was is they also, because they're all in on it together. Um, Basically it's like, is everybody all right? We're all okay, we're all sound. And then Trump comes out and goes, we're in a lockdown, because everything's fine behind the scenes with all these corporations and businesses. And something very quickly that we were doing with Claudio, he looked up basically what the supreme law is common law. And what it is they've got us in a corporation. And to be a corporation, you're a person, a mister. You know, they might call you an Indian or an African. They call you a person. And once they've done that, they've put you in their rule. But really, the supreme law is common law. And we've made it doesn't mean what we think it means. Communism means common law. So the Russians are given a much more choice than we are. After everything they've said about them, they have more choice than us. So probably they wanted us to stay away because the Russian, but I still think Putin's in on it because he glitches when he's with Trump and that. So he's not there. So they're making all these videos for us, but they just lied about everything.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's yeah. That is just so mind blowing. Is trying to determine what the reality actually is, because so many of the pieces of the puzzle, the history that we're told about world wars and planned or pandemics like the
You can't, do you
Spanish
know what I
flu.
think the wars were about? They've always been taking our children, no matter which way I look at it. When we ran over to America in the 1800s, people were put in quarantine and their children were taken and they became the orphan chain children. So they've been doing it since the 1800s. And even in the Second World War, a lot of children were sent over to Australia and other places. And even in England, you know, you can't stay in London, you've got to go down and live in Devon, you know. So the children, they've only got to tell that child, your parents died. You know, they were taking the children then. And it made me realise that Hitler was part of it. The concentration camps were about putting the people in quarantine and taking their children. He was doing the same thing. He's part of it. And the other thing the wars were about was destroying the infrastructures and destroying the Tartaria buildings and stuff like that. So that's what wars are about. They're destroying the buildings so that we can't. They're trying to get rid of our history.
Yeah, so there's that as well, and then there's just a redistribution of the actual wealth, who controls the stuff, who has the deed to the real
And you
estate,
know, Debbie,
who.
what happens is they'll make a problem and then they'll tell you how they're going to sort it out for you. But you see, most people don't realise that they created the problem. They made all the things happen, and then they've got the solution, and the solution is always to change the
Oh
law.
yeah,
So all they're doing is always taking everything away all the time, and uh, yeah, it's quite mind-boggling, isn't it?
it is, and the artificial intelligence, to cover some of the high spots with that, what it does is it creates the money out of thin air. That's one aspect of it, and then all the influence that purchasing power buys, the corruption of humanity through the entertainment, which is very deceptive, and as well as the news cycles, the movies, magazines, and what's supposed to be presented as news or science is
That's all
largely
fake.
deceptive.
Do you know what? You know, like you get a TV manual and you get the whole week's worth of programs, and they'll tell you what's on that channel, what's on that channel, what's on this channel. And the thing is that you don't realise when you're watching the news, it's the same thing. If you need a manual for that, and all it will be is lying to you, pretending this is real, making a present. No, the presence that we're in, present, it's not
Hmm.
real.
Yeah, so one of the documentaries that I saw more recently had like 500,000 views when I saw it about 2 months ago. The name of it is Out of Shadows, and it was a brilliant production that was put out to show the correlation between the CIA, Satanism, Hollywood, and the whole control system of the world, and including
Do you
pedophilia
know what? You
as
know, there's a
well,
big
human
court case at the
trafficking.
moment happening. We don't know if it's real or not because, you know, they love to put these things out, and supposing this AI company is taking all these people to court. But what they've done is they've made a completely narcissistic society. That's what they've done. Nearly everybody who is not a flat, well, you know, believes in all that stuff, they're all narcissists.
With the lawsuit, do you mean Cyrus A. Parza from
Yeah, I
the
don't know how
AI
real that is
organization?
because something else that Claudio was bringing up was when they get to these documents, whenever they
Hmm.
have an S on it, it means it's closed. So say it says persons, it means you'll never be able to take them to court. It's closed. So it's a bit of a shame they didn't tell us all that before we even tried to go to court. If it said person, it's different, or you know, you can do things. Once it's got an S in there, it means it's closed. And you're thinking, we should know all this, but they kind of it's there, but you have to find it and understand it.
Yeah,
So this AI company is supposed to be taking all these people to court, but all these people are still circulating and still there. I mean, they're put down for genocide, concentration camps, trying to kill humanity. Ugh.
yeah, oh yeah,
But I don't know
yeah.
if it's
So
we don't know if it's real or just another psyop again.
yeah, and with the PSYOP, we understand more of what that means. For those that maybe aren't aware, a psychological operation involves perception and a distortion of the perception to give a favorable outcome for this long game that artificial intelligence is playing. So that uh, one of the dynamics is there's so much information out there, and it's hard to prove which is actually true. What is the truth about whatever we're looking into? It's very complicated, and that's where the reality of I believe the reality of creation, going out to the ocean, walking on the beach, going, out in the yard, working in the garden, or just interacting with people face to face. With this more recent pandemic, there's a
Have you
fragmenting
been
and a
talking to people on
shattering.
the beach, Robert? Like, have they
Oh yeah,
been?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Well, with the social distancing and the masks and the lockdown and quarantining that they've been implementing has happened at different levels of severity, and all of the data stream that's produced from that lockdown and all of the cameras that are in place, it gives a very interesting and complicated bunch of information for the AI, artificial intelligence, to pour over
I
and to
think they just want
quantify.
us in fear, Robert, because Patricia, she looked up something. She bought this package, and basically, what we realised was through that. Watts case. I know I've mentioned it to you before, that guy that killed his wife.
Right.
But basically, America doesn't even have a database of birth certificates. So how can they implement the rest of the stuff if there isn't even a database of birth certificates? Do you see what I mean? They've just got us in fear.
Right. So
So
I
what I'm
wasn't
saying is they
aware of
can't really
that.
do what they're saying. It's all fear. You know, when they show us the rockets or the tanks or the it's all fear.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I've found out is that, early on in this coronavirus pandemic, a created collapse, what I found out was that even looking a look back to the Spanish flu, what caused a lot of the deaths may not be what we were told. So
No, because
when
those
I,
people were bleeding from their eyes, ears, and noses. So there was something else going on in that one.
yeah,
And
so
that's if that was true, because suddenly, about 2 months before we got into this pandemic, comes out Spanish flu 100 years ago.
right. Oh
So you don't
yeah.
know if any of it's true, do you?
So one of the things that I've
Because you
been
know
just
they can get footage from us today, and they can say, well, those people were queuing for food. We were sort of, but they made us queue for toilet paper. It's different. Yeah. But they could say those people were queuing for their food, and they can even turn that into a war. They've only got to stick some planes, and 100 years' time it becomes a war. But we weren't in a war. Do you see what I mean? They can just change whatever they want. They only need a couple of decades. That's how they got rid of flat Earth in the last, century. People were talking about it still, and about the late 1990s, it disappeared. There was a guy who was into the Flat Earth Association, he had his own library. His wife and him did it. It wasn't the one that we associate today. And his wife died,
hmm
his library got burnt down, and then he sort of died and it disappeared. 20 years has gone past, and then they go, oh, the new flat Earth. It's not new. But to a lot of people, it
no, and
look new.
yeah, yeah, and they want to make the truth sounds crazy to those that are deceived and have a different worldview, a different perspective, and they it's a bit of a virus for reality, for the truth. It causes people to believe the lie. And so that's where what I wanted to go back to for a moment is with the health considerations and what causes people to feel ill. There's a few dynamics that go along with that. Fear is a tremendous catalyst for physical abnormalities or malfunction or dis-ease. So what they did with the lockdown slash quarantine is cause people to live in this little world in front of their TV to try and see what's going on, and they're getting all afraid. And then with more recent events, with let's even early on, they were exaggerating the amount of deaths and the cause of the deaths. They were counting um, many different ways that people were dying, and they were attributing it to the coronavirus or COVID-19. And the thing that many people are unaware of at this point in history, there's about 250,000 people, to about 250,000 people die every day worldwide. And with that being said, about half of those are through abortion, which is a tremendous amount of death because the satanic control cult of the world, Satan's family, like to cause pain, heartache,
And that's the
and
sad
all of
bit, is
that.
that people don't seem to realise that there aren't any natural deaths. They're all put into that thing. They've all been put into that. Like, can't they see? We can see it. We can see that they've just taken any natural death or people dying from other things, and they've included it in the COVID.
Yeah, so even with the what's considered the official narrative, uh, there's a lot of hypocrisy and duplicity, and um, it doesn't add up. So, for example, at different times, Anthony Fauci, Mason, little gnome of deception, He's a diminutive little guy, but he's a deceiver. You know, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. A mask doesn't do any good, and then he's
And that's if
wearing a
he's
mask.
real and not one of their computer programs.
Yeah, so if he were, we would know, uh, as far as I can tell. So the when we're looking at this theater that's going on, it's deceptive. And the Out of Shadow video talked very much about how deceptive when that the media is, and it's not just one form of media; it's all forms, virtually all forms of media. And with that in mind, it's hard to differentiate, almost virtually impossible to know what's factual and what is science fiction or fantasy when we're looking at the space programs and then also the created events rather
Oh,
than
are they
saying
not your favourite programs then, Robert?
right, right. So even one of the terms that has had been interjected would be fake news. It's more accurately described as propaganda. And propaganda is used by the governments on their own individual populations. So there's some cross pollination of the deception that covers the whole world, which is
If
what
people wake up and realise that they're all running together and it's one great big program, we'd do a lot better and more people would wake up then.
yeah, that would be really interesting if that were to happen. And I don't even know what kind of numbers we're looking at for people that can see a lot of what we're talking about. I believe it's like less than 3%, maybe 1%. I know there's a lot of people that understand that there's, they'll acknowledge that, yeah, you can tell a politician is lying because his lips are moving. However, if you try and take that,
That's a good way of putting it, Robert.
oh yeah, yeah. So if you try and specify the ambiguity and say, okay, so you've acknowledged that politicians lie. What are they lying about? What would you say? Well, they lie about everything. Oh, really? So what is real? So what happens is they will acknowledge that there's a lot of deception. However, if you try and uh, take the people that make that proclamation and say, let's be real specific. What are they lying about? They have a hard time with that. I don't have a hard time with that. They're lying about almost everything. And that's they do it to deceive and to manipulate humanity. So yes, there will be a lot of people that die probably soon. But like there's 250,000 people per day that die of a variety of reasons. And now we're going to see.
What you mean
So
is
so
nothing's put into perspective then, is it?
well, I mean the perspective of reality is unusual for people to be aware of. They don't know the real situation. Like I say quite often, by irony and paradox, the deceived don't know they're deceived. We don't know what we don't know.
Hey, what's your
And
sayings? They don't know that they don't know. And there's another one you've got now.
well, so and I include myself in that, I don't know what I don't know. As time goes on, I find out more information that's rather disturbing and a bit of a paradox. I'll give you a perfect paradox. And I don't know quite what to do with it. If you go to my YouTube channel that I call Truth, I interact with people from a variety of different perspectives. And so when I share a video and include it in my research library, which is pretty much like a truth sampler, my created playlist, I call my research library, and I've got my name, phone number, hashtagged in that. And what is there is beautiful, relaxing music video from all around the world, as well as hard-hitting documentaries and educational material to show like some of the different aspects of artificial intelligence, robotics, manufacturing, commerce, like looking at Amazon, Tesla, uh, and 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 Facebook slash or actually Google. They're three heavily invested corporations heavily invested by artificial intelligence, and then they've got their respective avatars like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and then Sergey Brin, the different figures of this artificial intelligence. So it was interesting watching the interview with Elon Musk talking to Lex Friedman about the AI and the Turing test. The Turing test is basically been developed to see if an individual can realize they're interacting with artificial intelligence. And I'm listening and looking at Elon Musk, and it's ironic because I believe he is very much a product of that AI. In what capacity, I'm not exactly sure. I don't know how to quantify that. I know the business decisions for the three corporations I mentioned, Google, Amazon, and Tesla, are highly manipulated by artificial intelligence. Not manipulated necessarily in a bad way. Business decisions are made in the way that they develop that defies human understanding in many cases. So one of the aspects of their business development is they may not return much profit on their investment from a stockholder's standpoint, but it's a much longer game that they're running. In other words, they'll continue to develop infrastructure instead of just handing big checks to their stockholders, their shareholders. So they're building factories, buying robots, expanding their distribution network, and basically taking over the 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 world's distribution of information and consumables, including transportation, food, information, all of it. It's controlling it all. So one of the more disturbing realities, even though we've been told about the EMP or the electromagnetic pulse that could knock out a power grid locally or massively, artificial intelligence currently right now has administrative level access to the entire internet, including the creation and distribution of electricity.
To be honest,
And
I'm
that's
quite
very
surprised we can
disturbing.
live here because we have an electric pulse in our heart and our brains. The air is electric, the trees are electric, the ground's electric, the sun's electric, everything's electric. It's like, the water's electric. We shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be able to live here.
Well, so therein lies one of the very interesting dynamics. We have video or photographs that show some of the Tartarian empire that was highly electrified, supposedly before electricity
Yeah,
was and an
electricity has
electrical
been around, but
infrastructure was
a lot of
developed.
us think that the electricity came at the end of the 1800s. It didn't. And it had probably been here for a few hundred years before that. The Tartarian people had it all. I mean, look at it this way, Robert. You are in America. You are thousands of miles away from me. There's no time delay. Whatever they're using, they've had it for a long time.
Yeah, that's absolutely mind-blowing how that works out.
Yeah, we're thousands of miles away from each other. You are 5 hours behind me, yet there's no time delay.
Yeah, and as far as the actual distance,
How would that work on a spinning ball?
yeah, not so good. Couldn't even play a game of pool.
But
Billiards, it wouldn't work. I have my billiard table set up
when you think
here, and
about it, there's no wire between us. You can say whatever. I don't, because they say that there are these wires under the ocean. But I mean, Just imagine putting those wires from London or England to America. It would have taken months and months to do. It's not happening that way. I don't know how they're doing it. But we can talk to each other without any delay across the water, no satellites.
Well, so interestingly enough, there are there's technology that we don't exactly know how it works.
Yeah, they haven't told us the truth about how we're talking to each other. That's what's happening.
Well, so like for example, Tesla has made some of the most outrageously safe, efficient, high quality vehicles, and yet with SpaceX, there's a launching of the imaginations of humanity into space.
The
Well,
stupid rocket.
well, they're actually launching things up into space, but space is a lot. It's like low Earth orbit, and it's this side of apparently the firmament. I don't believe they can really go on the other side of the hard structure that the Bible refers to as the firmament. And so, as a biblical creationist, my proclamation of that is very unpopular even within the truth movement. And so that's where this gets very complicated in my finding out that a lot of things are different than I've been told. I've been continuing to pursue finding out the answers as best I can. And so I don't know the end game of, of how this works out. For example, with Elon Musk talking about first principles and all that, I would say one of the first principles in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. I believe the biblical creation narrative. And then there's evidence of that with archaeological evidence of Noah's Ark in the mountains of Ararat. We had a great flood that we can find evidence of because we've got shark teeth in the deserts and up in the mountains. How does that work? Well, we've we've been flooded, and then there's mud floods, and then there's mud fossils, and there is so much mystery, and there's mystery with history. And so what I found out is that most of what we're being presented in the educational
Is a
system.
lie.
Correct. Yes, true. Yeah, it's a lie. They're lying. I ain't buying. And that's what about 40 million. That's one of the things about 40 million people heard me say through the different venues that I'm in. They're lying. I ain't buying. Another one is we don't have toilet water flying out on people in Australia because of gravity. Well, hello, it's just water seeking its level. That's what it does. I live a few miles from the ocean, been watching it for years. I've had an attraction to water, swimming, and going to the ocean. And water is a natural level. The surface of undisturbed, unmanipulated water is not only flat, it's also level. So, one of the things to keep in mind is there would be no level anywhere on a spinning water ball hurling through space. Then the other thing is, like I've, the other thing that people heard me say, do you feel yourself spinning, wobbling, or gyrating? No, I'm rock solid. I am.
Yeah, because with what they've given us, I've tried to explain this. I just don't see how people don't get it. We're supposed to be moving in three different directions: one anti-clockwise with the moon, and then two with the sun. One with the sun, and then the sun is in the universe. So that's three different directions, or three directions we're going, all at the same time, doing Mach 80. How could we
Yeah,
survive that? Mach
supposedly.
80. Do you know what? They put, when they're doing training for Air Force and that, they stick them in that machine that goes round and round. They're doing Mach 1 and they pass out. We're doing Mach 80, but we
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
feel a
yeah,
thing.
yeah. So whenever I describe that, what I like to add in, much like a defense attorney, and not that they've got a good reputation, defense attorneys, However, what I would like to say is allegedly or supposed movement of the Earth has never been proven, ever. So that means that the space programs of the world are lying to us about the nature of the Earth. So right now on the nature relaxation channel that I've got on, I'm watching it, is aerial videography from all over the world. It's gorgeous. And it's so obvious that what the action of the water does. It we have rainfall, waterfall, snowfalls. That's what it does. It would fly off a spinning tennis ball, a beach ball, a frisbee. So the Earth isn't really flat. There's elevation above and below sea level.
Oh no, well, when because I know that that's even a tricky subject because people don't understand it. The base of what we live on is flat with the mountains, the rivers, the gorges, the hills, whatever it is. That's what's stuck on top. But the base of what we live on is a flat plane
Yeah, yeah. So it's stationary and level.
with
Those are,
an eyesight horizon for miles up.
yeah, oh yeah, it's amazing. So knowing that,
You
here's
cannot
one of
have
the
an
big
eyesight
things.
horizon. It's on level with you when you look at it out of the plane, no matter how high they go, and be on a globe at the same
Right.
time. You just can't.
That's right. And so one of the real important dynamics that goes along with this, as the system evaluates, tracks, traces, databases, and threat assesses, every individual is being tracked, traced, databased, and threat assessed. Now, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to live, die, or tell the truth. Why should I be? I mean, I'm a soul that has a body temporarily. We apparently live forever. I believe that's true. That's the biblical proclamation. However, our
Our
body,
souls, you mean?
yeah, our soul
Because we're
does.
energy, aren't
Well,
we? That's what everybody talks about. That's when they come on the hangouts. They say we're energy, and that energy doesn't die. But we don't remember it if we come back. If we come back here, we don't remember the last person,
yes.
but our soul goes on.
So the electrical system that we have can be sometimes resuscitated. There's a defibrillator that applies electricity to get the heart going again. And that's it doesn't work for some. In fact, even in this whole COVID thing, they had a do not resuscitate deal
Yes,
going
I know.
on.
I
So,
heard people talking about
oh
that.
yeah,
Like this one person, they made a video or
yeah,
something, and they were saying, he came in. All he did was have anxiety. Before the end of before he knew it, he was on a ventilator without resuscitating. He was 37 and he died. And he came in with anxiety, nothing else. It's
yeah.
a bit hard
So
to know what they were doing. Do you know what I think, Robert? Though with that is that I just couldn't believe it. For months, if you went to casualty, you had to wait hours to see a doctor because there were so many people in there. And then they said stay at home, and we did. I think they wanted the people still to go to the hospital, and then they could have had much larger numbers, but the people stayed away, and that's why we've been locked down for so long because they needed the figures to look bigger and bigger
yeah,
to
and
lie to
then
us even more. But we didn't do what they wanted us to do. They still wanted the hypochondriacs to go to hospital, but I think I don't want the injection.
yeah. So there's you mentioned a very important phrase,
Yeah.
hypochondriacs, or a definition. One of there's uh, people that there's a placebo effect when they evaluate either medicines or actions. So sometimes people will have a treatment or a medicine that is actually a placebo, and they notice a difference. It's because they're anticipating that they have a positive, or they have an effect that they're attributing to a medication or a treatment that actually was going on in their mind. It didn't really, like a sugar pill that has fabulous results because for some,
We've talked
because
about this in a hangout last night. I think, say the doctor says, right, you've got cancer and you've got 6 months to live. That's probably how long you'll live. If you put in your mind, I don't have cancer and I'm okay, you live a lot longer. It's what you tell yourself.
Yeah, so now in the case of the cancer, if a person, instead of going to the traditional medical industrial complex where they're going to cause and then make the treatment even worse, if somebody chooses to go the route of healthy living, healthy choices nutritionally, and then pursuing the truth and having an emphasis on wanting to do the best that they can with keeping toxins out of the body, including false information, or at least if we look at information, we can recognize quite often when it's a lie. In some cases, some of it's pretty obvious. So there's some call it a nocebo effect. It's the opposite of a placebo effect. So in our bodies, we have a physiological response to fear. There are endorphins and
Oh, I know.
neuro.
Can I just add something, Robert? Robert, what they
Sure.
do is someone else was talking and they were saying what it is we have this natural flight and fright thing going on, but because they keep us living in fear for so long through the television, we're always in the fright, and it's not good for our bodies.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where there is a response that our bodies have to that fear that can actually exacerbate or actually cause some of those physical problems. The dis-ease can happen because of the negativity that is being projected and believed because of how it's perceived. Now, I can look at some of that same information that's causing somebody to be afraid, and I'm looking at it saying, well, that's bullshit. I'm not buying it. How about that? So we can all look at the information and have a different perspective on it. And so the system that's evaluating our response to that is looking at our interaction through social media, the phone calls that we have, the some of the face-to-face interaction, but it's a little bit more challenging with the masking and the quarantining for that face-to-face to be evaluated. However, like when I go to the Walmart or the Home Depot or I'm out in public, I'm wearing a smile, not a mask. And that is so obvious. A smile has never been so obviously different than the people, the sheeple,
Yes,
unfortunately,
well done, because
walk.
I feel offended by those goddamn masks.
Yeah, I'm wearing a smile, and that is so obvious. And even at the introductory level of just before this whole mask wearing a smile communicates something very powerful. In a world where people are frowning, bummed out, and miserable, wearing a smile stands out. Now that a lot of people are masked up, wearing their masks, and I'm not. I won't. I won't wear a mask. They can shove it up their ass. About that. That's what I'll do with that. And that whole proclamation may
Robert,
sound,
can I ask you something? Because you know what? It looks like
yeah.
we've come in England, we've come out of it. They've told us we're not in lockdown anymore. But the message afterwards was, but we might be back in it in December. But what happens if they made it mandatory? So, I mean, I'm not looking forward to December now. Oh my God, I can't go through this again. But anyway, what if they made it mandatory, then what would you do? Just asking, because I hate the masks.
So when
Especially if they're made in India and they make them on the floor and they're not even sterile.
yeah, so I don't wear a mask, and when this first came out, I wore a mask for a couple of days, and even though it was a N95 and I wore it a couple of times when I went into like the Home Depot and the Walmart, I I hung it up in my rear view mirror of the car, and it started smelling funky. And the thing is, we're not supposed to breathe in our exhaust, but there's more than just moisture coming out. There's actual
Sorry, I
toxic.
like the way you put that.
Yeah,
Breathing in your exhaust.
yeah, oh yeah. Well, it takes on another connotation too, like farting, but it's we're not supposed to be breathing that stuff in. And the thing is, there's a bit of a reduction in oxygen. In fact, I've got a video that shows the
Yeah,
apparently
it's on
about
my channel,
21.
that one. Everybody's sending that one round at the moment, but it's already on Unscrambled.
Yeah, so instead of the 21% oxygen that's in the air around us, when wearing a mask, there's about a 17% oxygen level, and safe oxygen level would be about 19%. So people are making themselves dizzy and less perceptive and less healthy by wearing a mask. So when if somebody were to do any shaming or apparent attempted shaming of me, like I'm not caring about elderly people by not wearing a mask, saying, hey, wearing a mask isn't healthy for anybody, just so you know. It's not healthy for you, it's not healthy for me, it's not healthy for anybody. Now when somebody is in surgery, you want to have that doctor got to with his face covered, because we don't want any of his saliva, spit, mist from his exhaling to go in the inside of a person. There can be a problem there, but that's what it's for primarily. So the idea of mask wearing is basically a massive psychological operation to optically be able to tell who's compliant and who's not. I'm non-compliant. I do not consent. I do not comply. I will not take a test to see what I have. I don't want a temperature test. I'm not going to accept a swab. I don't want to weigh
Because
me.
the most stupid thing is, if you want to know, right? There's two things I find a bit strange though. A, we all have COVID, and it's a natural cleansing of the body when we have colds and stuff like that. But that court case we were talking about is 19 CV. Sorry, CV9, whichever way it is. What is it? It's COV9. So that one's 19 CV.
COVID-19, it's they're running it's a live exercise that they're putting out there. I don't know what they're going to do with people like me. Not that there's a lot of people like me, because even with the truth movement, I'm exposing SpaceX as a space fantasy, and yet I like the Tesla vehicles. I like the artificial intelligence as it can bring up some helpful effects to humanity, and yet it can also be the Terminator and reduce humanity, kill it off. So it's a I'm a bit of an anomaly that way, and I don't know quite what they're going to do with me, because I have interacted with Elon Musk. I sent him the photoshopped shirt of me in the Tesla Roadster, and I sent it to him airmail through FedEx with with a with with the Tesla Roadster on the front with me photoshopped in it, and a Cybertruck on the back, and which I pre-ordered the Tesla tri-motor Cybertruck. I don't know that I'll be able to take delivery on that with all that's going on, but I would like to. And so I'm a fan and a believer in a lot of what Elon Musk is about. However, with the direct connection to the computer hardware with the brain neural link, I'm not going to be signing up for that. I'm not I'm not a fan of that. So
You
it's
know that
all very
NASA have been
interesting.
doing stuff. They've been doing cognitive engineering. That's
Oh,
disgusting. It's where we
yeah,
are now. They've cognitive engineered everybody.
yeah, yeah, brainwashed, mind controlled. So we don't know what kind of an impact that technology is actually having on us. Which, so like for example, one of the things that I had been wondering is when I would go out to the beach and I would open up my computer and I could see many different Wi-Fi signals, and they were mostly locked out. Some of them I didn't have the password to get on the system. And I thought, that's interesting. And here's where I'm going to go with that. I'm wondering what kind of receptivity our brain has to that wireless technology that's all around us. And I've been questioning things like, where do our thoughts come from? Where do our ideas come from? Now, I do believe
Let's
God
just
can give.
hope that they haven't managed to get into humans' heads and you think it's your thoughts, but it's coming from their source.
Well, I believe that's what's part of what's going on. Yeah. So that's one of the things that
Really?
I've got ex gang stalking video. Uh, Brian Coffrin is the apparently he worked with SIS that did executive security for the Amazon Corporation in Seattle. And what he said was they had been working with wireless technology to influence not just an individual, influencing a whole geographic area through the cellular sine wave technology and other silent weapons for quiet wars, where they could make an area
Yeah, I
very.
think they're trying to teach us to turn ourselves off all the time, because I watched this video with this guy in hospital and it wasn't very nice because his mum was labouring around in the background, but he was just absolutely gutted. And I don't think this was a new video, which makes it even worse because it wasn't happening now. It was happening maybe 2 or 3 years ago. They were saying, well, we could give this to your mum and anaesthetise her and it will save her, sort of thing. And he's going, you are never euthanizing my mum. And he was so outraged. But Amy had to tell her dad to go at Christmas. He was dying. Well, he wasn't dying. Well, he had brain cancer. He had the treatment, but it wasn't it wasn't. He
Mhm.
was cured of the brain cancer, but the treatment. Oh, what are you doing, Robert? The treatment killed him. But he wasn't doing very well, and
Oh
Amy
yeah.
got told by the nurses to tell her dad to let go. Imagine that. This is what
Well,
I think.
yeah.
This is
Now,
what I think. They've been programming us.
well, yeah. So, like about 27 and a half years ago, my mother died of cancer. And what she told me just a few months before she died is that she said, Bobby, if the cancer doesn't get you, the treatment will. And I believe she was accurate on that. And that's part of the system. The system of toxifying our environment, the food, water, air, and the frequencies all around us, creates disease and can have a cancerous response. And cancer is narcissistic. It wants to grow itself, and it will grow exponentially to such an effect that it'll kill the host, which would be us. And it has no problem doing that. So the borax baking soda that I bathe in, I put a quarter cup in my purified water, drinking water, reverse osmosis. I put a quarter cup of baking soda, borax, and magnesium sulfate, which is Epsom salts. It absorbs into the skin. It is a cancer killing cocktail, and it's got electrolytes that are extremely healthy for my body electrics. So, how about that? I'm operating on a pretty high frequency. Even though I'm looking at all the shit that's going on all around us, I'm okay with my little corner of it. Even though my wife Joni is leaving me, I'm okay with that. I've had about all I can
Oh,
stand.
Robert, is that still happening? That's been going on for it's going on for ages. That
That's
has,
been
isn't it?
going on for about five. She's been leaving for about 5 years, but it actually looks like in August it's going to be official. So she's packing, and I'm helping her pack, and I'm not all angry with her. I actually feel sorry for her and anybody else that is deceived and willfully ignorant. They don't want to look at new information that may challenge or contradict their currently
Not being
held
horrible, because
perspective.
I don't know your wife. I don't really want to interrupt, but do you think she's a narcissist? Just asking.
Well, I would say yeah, and she would say that I am. That's I care enough to tell the truth. I care enough about obeying God that I will do it. I will obey Him and tell the truth, even though it's extremely unpopular with most of humanity. So it I'm getting a pushback from people from all around. Even those within the truth movement, many don't understand why I would feature Tesla technology or Elon Musk technology, artificial intelligence, and yet I'm exposing the bad. I'm exposing the good and the bad, or what I believe is beneficial and not beneficial, and let the results be what it is. Some people will say, "Oh, your Jesus is a fantasy, like unicorns and leprechauns." I'm like, "Oh well, you can believe whatever you want, apparently, because I know what I used to be like,
It
and I
is
know what
quite
I'm
cruel
like
to do
now."
this to us, though, isn't it? Because I'm sure many people who've woken up, it's usually them and the rest of their family doesn't. And then their other family are going, "You're insane, you're all these things." But it's actually the other way around.
Yeah, that's the real challenge. Now, there's a video called The Secret Covenant. It's about 15, maybe 12, 13, 14 minutes long, depending on which venue there's a it's on. There's a English sounding gentleman that does a great job of exposing what the secret covenant is. And it's basically the secret covenant of the Illuminati that basically is one of the real important dynamics. Those that see this battle that's going on will be thought to be insane by those that are deceived. They're going to look at us and say, "You
Yeah, because
tinfoil."
we get given these labels, don't we? In that world, their world, we get given these labels.
Yeah, so there's a lot of conspiracy theories, a veritable kaleidoscope of conspiracy theories. There, like if you look through a kaleidoscope, it's kind of pretty in that, but I wouldn't want to be driving a car looking through a kaleidoscope, unless it were a self-driving car and I'm just going along for the ride. But the idea with this
I just imagine Robert trying to keep up with the kaleidoscope.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, the thing about a kaleidoscope is there's a lot of different reflections that are distorting the actual reality. And so there's the truth about whatever it is that we want to know about. And then if it's a significant issue, there's going to be a veritable kaleidoscope of conspiracy theories around that truth to obfuscate, to confuse the issue, to cause a lot of people to say, "No, I don't want to look into any of this stuff. It's just, how can I know? It just sounds crazy to me." And that's the way it's designed. And that crazy sounding, those crazy sounding perspectives that are pursuing the truth, that is just going to create deception, or I should say, dissension, and like contaminants in a relationship where people separate because one person wants to know the truth and the other person apparently wants to believe something other than the truth. So it gets really complicated. Some love the truth and actually love the truth, whereas a lot of people will say they love the truth.
I
And
mean, these people who haven't woken up, it wasn't that we just went, "Oh yeah, yeah." Sometimes you're going, "Oh my God," like you have to think about it for a few days. It has to sink in because you think, "Not that as well," but then you realise everything's a lie. You have to just get your head around that everything's a lie.
well, almost everything. And that's, I want to be specific with that.
Except you, Robert. You're not a lie.
Well, as best I can tell, what I believe is the truth. Now, by definition, what we believe to be true. That's
and
the way it
and
works.
and very quickly, we've woken up, we're learning, growing, but there's still stuff we don't know, so we don't know everything. If you said that earlier on,
That's correct. We don't know what we don't know. And that's okay.
but
That's
sometimes I don't know
okay.
if you need to. So we had this person on a hangout last night, Hannah. She said 20 years I've been looking down all the rabbit holes and the conspiracies, but when it comes to it, The reset is you. You've got to sort yourself out. It's all in you. It's how you think. It's how you feel. The thoughts manifest. It's up to you. You as a person. And we blame everybody for years, but ultimately the reset is you.
So now there's where I'm going to apply my critical thinking and my personal experience, and where they converge is that I understand that it's I'm going to be very much involved in that. I can't change all these other things around me. And what I found out also is that I was pretty hopeless in trying to change myself. I mean, I knew what or at least I believed what I should do was different than what I was actually doing, with drug addiction, alcoholism, uh, going along with the pharmaceutical modification in modern psychiatry, which is a real boondoggle. It's a chemical straitjacket that a lot of humanity is wearing, whether they realize it or not. They may get a blood pressure medicine or a cholesterol medicine, or try to quit smoking and get a drug called Chantix, or they may be a little depressed or a little too happy. Well, here's the problem. All of these chemicals have effects. I'm going to say they're not even side effects. They are effects. Now, as a lover of the truth, what I found out is that the battle that we're in, the enemy of us and of our soul has no problem misrepresenting what it wants us to see. So that a person taking a drug for one cause or one symptom may be unaware that it's actually designed to cause lack of perception and lack of physical health. It's
When you're
the
taking multiple prescriptions, Robert, each one of those will have all the downsides which might happen. Stick all those together in a soup and stir it around. That's what's going on for you. Because I don't even think the doctors work it out, because some of these, like high blood pressure pills, whatever it is, they're going to have side effects. And there's all these different side effects from the medication. Probably get more
so
ill
like
by taking the
yeah
medication.
so like I said, they're not actually side effects. They're designed effects to hinder our perception and to cause dis-ease. So some
Yeah,
people
because
are on.
antidepressants, they are supposed to, they cut off your feelings. They stop you connecting to yourself. That's what antidepressants do, so that you'll never be able to get in touch with yourself properly, and everything is just numb.
Yeah,
That's what
so
they do.
some of the direct marketing will say, like in the United States, we've got direct marketing to consumers. So they'll have the news programming. It's all programming, and they're presenting all this stuff that's going on that's very unpleasant, the worldwide collapse and all of that that's going on economically, socially, and all of that. And then they're presenting pharmaceutical solutions to that problem. Well, the problem with that is people that subscribe to believing that that's going to be a benefit for them are going to be crippled even further. So, for example, they may say you may have unusual thoughts, more frequent urination, you may have homicidal thoughts. No, they don't talk about homicidal. They may say suicidal, but they don't even mention the more accurate description of suicidal ideation, which involves homicide as well. That's where those murder suicide situations happen. Or if we hear a story of a mother who kills her children, drowns them, that type of thing. It's pathetic, the way that people respond to the crippling of our emotion and perception. So,
It's
for
the
example,
deception, isn't it, Robert?
yeah, well, imagine this. I mean, I didn't do my best thinking when I was drunk. I can tell you that right now. That's pretty straightforward. So, and that's why so many people die in automobile accidents. So many pregnancies, undesired pregnancies happen because a couple people hook up. They're getting drunk and they decide to go for a ride to the amusement park of sexuality, and then there's an undesired pregnancy and then an abortion, and they may think, oh yeah, that's better off than bringing a child in. Well, what would be way better off is to just do the right thing. But a lot of people don't want to do the right thing. They want to do whatever thing they want to do. They want to believe
You've
whatever they
got a
want to
lot of
believe.
things that happen to take our mind off it, haven't you? Whatever it is, whether it's medication, drugs, you've got all these things to take your mind off what's really happening. And then you're lost in this
Exact,
whirling
exact.
whirl.
Yeah, yeah.
And you never,
So
and the really sad thing is when they're on this, not so much for medication, but more the drug side. Those people just don't trust anybody. They haven't worked themselves out. They just don't trust people.
So there's we've got onboard drugs as well, naturally occurring endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine. It's a chemical cocktail that God created in our bodies to respond to the fight or flight. If I see a crisis unfolding in front of me, like somebody coming at me with a weapon, I'm going to unleash some serious hurt on that individual if I need to, or I would get away if I could. However, if I was cornered, I'm not going to say have a nice day, Jesus loves you. No, I'm going to knock the shit out of them right quick is what I would do. And so that's and the
Robert,
world.
you're a very peaceful man. I wasn't expecting you to say that. But anyway, carry on.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like I once saw John Wick kill three men with a pencil. I don't know if you've ever seen the John Wick movie, or of course you've seen Neo in the Matrix. Neo wasn't going to be pushed around, right? That's the way it went down. Is that there's
We're
a loading,
Neo. We're
yeah,
Neo.
yeah, more like that. We can be. And then we have a loading program too. Remember when Morpheus is saying this is our loading program. We can get whatever we need. We can load weapons, we can load all kinds of things. And we see Neo go, "Wow, I know jujitsu." And he says, "Show me." And it was amazing. Well, we can learn a lot from watching, and we can be deceived by watching too. So I'm not saying that what I'm saying is we can learn a lot from watching, and we can be deceived as well by watching. The thing that can happen though is there's a distortion that can happen in our brains with the chemical assault that's going on. So that for example, something like sunscreen chemicals hinder the body's absorption of vitamin D, which is healthy, and many of them are loaded with
And also, you're
neurotoxins.
putting what people don't realise is they're slapping factor 50 on their baby. All those chemicals go straight to their liver.
Yeah, how about that? How about that? And that
So we're
goes
just
back to the
poisoning
secret.
ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, that can happen. I'm not doing that so much anymore, not willingly, not knowingly. So what I do with the bathing and the drinking water is along with the baking soda, borax, and magnesium sulfate, is it helps my body's electrical system, kills off the fungus, whether it's toenail fungus, jock itch, or the candida that can
Yeah,
grow in
which
the
is
gut.
and you know something else as well. You know these injections.
Yeah,
I was looking them up. Basically, uh, well, she played Nurse Ratchet in one of the videos, and I can't think what her name is right now. But anyway, she's a nurse, and she's basically saying that what they do is, oh no, sorry, it was a different. It was called whatever she was called, something nurse. But anyway, she was explaining that they have to make all the things in the injections. They're artificial, but they have to put them in. And what it is each one of those divides and divides, which is cancer. So they're giving you cancer.
correct. Yeah, there's cancer in the vaccines. There's mercury in the vaccines. Thimerosal is a mercury derivative. There's human tissue, genetic material in the vaccines as well. And it's not right. I won't take a vaccine willingly, you know, and that's where I would take uh, uh, an attempt to involuntarily give me or force a vaccine on me. I would take it as a lethal threat, just as if somebody was approaching me with a knife or a gun. That's where it would go. So, like, I saw a guy apparently get vaccinated, or they gave him a shot. It was on a video. I can tell you, I'd be hitting people in the cojones and in the windpipe so freaking quick. A thumb in the eyeball will get somebody's attention. So there's target focused training. There's weapons like guns and knives and hands, fingers, teeth, and elbows and knees and all of that. And I remember when I was a boy. I was like 18 years old. It was at a graduation party, and a whole bunch of the wrestlers tried to get me into the swimming pool. They were trying to pull me over there to throw me in the swimming pool. They couldn't do it, and I wasn't blinding them and maiming them. I just wasn't cooperating with them. So my point with all that is that there is a lot that we can do to resist, and it can be more than simply resisting is more like a passive response, and target focused training means to put a hurt on somebody so that they're going to stop doing it. An elbow right in the eye socket or in the sternum, or right the ulna bone, which is right above the wrist, right in the windpipe, it'll stop somebody from being able to breathe.
A good place is just under the rib cage as well. Just under the rib cage. Whack, that
Exactly.
wins people.
That's right.
I had to do that once with a bloke who I was going out with him, but he had me trapped on the bed. And when I got up, my action was to punch him, and I punched him there and I winded him. And I thought, that's a good place if you ever have to do it. Hit them just below the rib cage.
That's right. Well, way to you go, Karen. I'm sure that knocked a little of the motivation out of his.
It did. It did.
Yeah,
I left
yeah.
him because I'm
Well,
not that kind of
good.
person. But that's what happened. I don't know. It was about 10 years ago. No, 2008. Yeah, 12 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, and that's where, you know, we can make a difference in the outcome of events by planning what we would do in that
I didn't
situation.
plan it. Eventually he got off me after keeping me because he was 6'2". I'm not 6'2". He had me trapped on the bed because our relationship was ending, and he did all these really weird things. I was going, get off me. He's 45 minutes of this battle on the bed. When he stood up, I punched him. I'm not that kind of person, but when you keep me trapped, it was kind of, he didn't rape me, but it was a sort of rape. And I just, that's what I did. You don't realize sometimes that, you overcome your fear to do things. Anyway, it made him, it winded him.
Well, yeah,
And
he
it
got
didn't
the
hurt my
point. The
hand
point
either.
was
I
you
didn't
didn't
I
want.
didn't think, oh, that hurt.
Well, and that's where, the hesitation that people have can be the last hesitation they ever have. Oh, what should I do here? Well, if you have determined, if you're in a situation like that, you're going to cause an injury on that individual, that can be life-saving. So that's pretty much where what you did is, it wasn't a permanent injury, but it certainly stopped what was going on. And
Yeah.
that's what we should do. We should have a pre-planned response. Like I said, if somebody comes at me with a vaccine or a little testing wingy they want to shove in my throat or my nose, I'm going to say, I do not consent. Away from me with that. And if
That's
they
the
start
saddest thing
grabbing,
is when you turn around and you look at what we're in and all the things that say 20 years ago we trusted. Basically, we are in
yeah,
one big concentration camp because what they said they did in Auschwitz and all these things, they're doing to us now. They're just doing it even more worldwide.
exactly,
Can I just say,
exactly. And
Robert, we've been going for an hour and a quarter. Do you want to finish off?
yeah, yeah, sure. Was there anything else you wanted to ask or tell
Well, we've had
me?
a very two-way conversation today, haven't we?
Hmm. I've enjoyed it. It's been a delightful interaction with you, Karen. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. You're one of my good friends. So yeah.
And one of the things that I wanted to put out there to our audience is that I make my phone number available. I hashtag my name on my videos and that. And what I'm going to do, I'm gonna bring this up right now. Let me see if I can. I want to put my camera on for a moment.
Woohoo.
Let's see. Where am I? I'm trying to activate that. Yeah, there we are. So here's my contact information, and you can contact me anytime if you'd like to. And one of the things that I wanted to just kind of leave people with is a thought. Oh, let me flip that around here. So what I'm showing you real quick, I just wanted to have this as a prop. It's kind of like a good thing to consider, is that all of these balls will just stop. If you've played pool, what you probably are aware of is a pool table can have a roll to it. And this one is pretty level is what it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and take a shot. I want to set this up so I can give kind of a pretty good shot there. You know what? It's off center. What I did, I wanted to, sometimes people will say, how come the earth is flat and all the planets are round? It's like, okay, well, anyway, that you might want to take a look at some of my photo album of like the moon. It's not a sphere at all. But what I wanted to show you is just what happens. I did have an experience when I was a bit younger. I'm going to set this up here so I don't crash my phone when I do this. I did have an experience where I was able to clear the table, meaning I broke and then I put in all the balls. The other person never had a chance to shoot. And that doesn't mean I'm going to do that now. But what it means is, see all those balls stopping the roll? Now, if the pool table were tilted, wobbling, gyrating, none of that would happen. And when I put my my level on the table, the bubble stays in the middle, and I can assure you that the sun, moon, and stars are moving right now, and the bubble will just stay there. Now, I put this pool table in about 1.5 years ago, and it's level. That's why all the balls stopped rolling. That's just the reality of it. You're looking at one of the largest levels in the world right there, sea level. Isn't that pretty? You can watch that if you like. It's on my channel. I want to thank you for having me on, Karen. Let me flip this on around here. There we go.
Absolute pleasure, Robert.
Oh, thank you so much, Karen. And I wanted to say that I put my phone number there so people can call me anytime. And that's been kind of a nice thing. Do you feel yourself spinning, wobbling, or gyrating? No, I'm rock solid. Thank you so much for having me on. Did you want to have me stay on when you cut the broadcast?
Yeah. We'll say goodbye on the Hangout, and then we'll say goodbye to each other when I've pressed the button. But Robert, thank you so much for your time. Lovely, Robert.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So, Robert, chat room.
Alrighty, call anytime. Thanks again.
Hey, thank you, my
You're
darling.
welcome.